These fish hooks are made with pine resin and cordage and, of course, a couple of thorns and a piece of wood. But the pine resin is the most important part. Yeah, that's a stone sinker. Before you can work with pine resin, you gotta find pine resin. So that's what we're about to go do. We're gonna go find some pine resin, and then once we get some, we're going to learn how to make some tools, and I'll show you how to use it for lamplight, and also how to make torches for lighting your way at night. Sometimes pine sap isn't too easy to find, but if you can locate a pine tree like this one here that has a split, see that pine sap leaking out right there? Well, it doesn't look like much, but if you're making a fish hook or some other kind of smaller tools, that pine sap right there, that's a good sized chunk. Healthy trees don't leak. The trees that have an injury like this split right here, that's where you find your pine sap. Oh yeah, there's some right there. Yeah, nice fat wad of it right there. Oops, drop that one. Alright, that's going to be enough. Now that I found a cactus, I can cut them needles off right there with my knife. Just cut them off with a knife, and you can use those for your fish hook. Now that I've got all my materials gathered up, I'm going to show you how to make a fish hook out of pine sap and a couple cactus needles. This is what you'll need. You need 2 pieces of limestone, a moth cocoon, you need 2 shells, and of course an ample amount of pine resin. You need 3 or 4 cactus needles and a nice bent piece of pine wood. This one I split from the knot of a piece of heart of pine, but you can use any bent twig off a tree. You just make sure you get all the bark off of it, and the bend in it makes it really nice and rigid, and it also provides you with the appropriate shape to make a fish hook out of. So let's get it started. The first thing you do is kind of open up your cocoon a little bit. I just tear the top off of it. It's kind of like silk, and yeah, you can make these to make cloth out of, because these are the silkworm type cocoon. See, you just tear the top off of it, make a nice hole, and you gotta take pine resin. So you take your pine resin and you just fill up the cocoon. It's going to burn like a wick. Then you take a shell of some sort, not necessarily this kind of shell, but any kind of shell that will hold it. And you press it down in there so that it holds it like that, and then you're ready to light it. You can use a magnesium flint stick, or if you got a bonfire burning already, you can take a twig and put it over there, but I'm going to use a cigarette lighter. We'll have to kind of shelter the early fire. You also want to make sure it doesn't fall apart. And we're going to let that burn down for just a second and get going really good, and then I'm going to complete the process. Once your fire gets going good, you set the shell on there, just like that. Lay your pine pitch in there. You have to kind of adjust everything so the heat goes where you want it to go. And once the pine pitch melts, you'll be ready to start finishing your fish hook. And of course you're going to start with this here. See the pine sap starting to bubble and melt just a little bit. Get a close up. See it starting to bubble. It starts to catch on fire. You know you've got it too hot. You see the cocoon burning like a wick? Oh yeah, that's good. See, now I got my melted pine resin. I'm just going to dunk my stick in it, coat the stick, rub it in with your finger. And you take your cactus needles. I use 3 or 4 of them because one cactus needle might break in a fish's mouth, but if you have 3 or 4 of them, they hold up a lot better. You remelt your pine resin, stick the hooks on there like that, and let it cool. And as you can see, they're effectively glued on there. Then you take a piece of cordage, and you lash the needles on just like that. Just simple lashing. One layer, you don't want to make it too thick and fat. And because you're using pine resin, you don't have to tie a lot of fancy knots or anything, just 1 or 2 half hitches. Put a nice half hitch in there. And once it's melted, dip your finger in there and you coat the string with pine resin. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit hot, but it won't burn you. Unless you touch the broiling hot shell, then that might burn you. The shell might burn you, but the pine sap won't. Take a knife or whatever else you got, trim the strings. This last step is really important because your fish hook has raw pitch all over the string, and what you want to do is you want to heat it up. You don't want it to catch on fire. You just want to heat it up so that it melts into the cordage. You just want to